HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Healing a Spouse's Grieving Heart, 100 Practical Ideas After Your Husband or Wife Dies, by Alan D. Wolfelt, Ph.D., read by John Pruden. Bereavement is a universal and integral part of our experience of love. It follows marriage as normally as marriage follows courtship, or as autumn follows summer. It is not a truncation of the process, but one of phases, not the interruption of the dance, but the next figure. We are taken out of ourselves by the loved one when he is here. Then comes the tragic figure dance in which we must learn to be taken out of ourselves, though the bodily presence is withdrawn. C.S. Lewis, A Grief Observed. Introduction. Until death do us part. Many of us stood before our family and friends and made this promise to our new spouses. We committed to love, honor, and cherish, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. We believed in the power of love to conquer all things. Of course, at the time, most of us had no concept of the formidable foe that is sickness, or the unbreachable chasm that is death. As intrepid travelers on the journey into loving and being loved by another person, we open ourselves to all that may happen along the way. We join in a shared union and experience the ups and downs that come with the sweetness and the normal occasional bitterness of the connection. If we are fortunate, as our relationships evolve, we become increasingly comfortable meeting each other in the richness of our humanity, sharing our strengths and our weaknesses, our joys and our sorrows. A vital part of loving well means accepting those we love, their gifts as well as their flaws. Even in the face of all the mysteries of life, it is so grounding to know that there is another person who catches our spirit. It may be as simple as the way she walks or the sparkle in her eyes. Something connects you in a way that makes both of you feel alive. There is a change from me to us, and a shared commitment to live life together with mutual meaning and purpose. Love has given us faith in each other and in the world. We feel safer, almost immortal. I believe that loving another person is one of the ways we reach out to God. Shared love answers our need for meaning, adventure, and connection to another human being. Authentic love is a miracle, and we have touched it. Yet, even surrounded by our faith and love, inevitable loss lurks in the background. When that special person we love dies, we are broken in ways never imagined. Despite the certainty that death will enter into our lives, most of us are unprepared for it. We feel torn from the familiar, as if our world has been turned upside down. Our everyday lives have come apart, shattered in myriad ways. We may fear that we cannot be ourselves in a world forever changed by this profound loss, that investing ourselves in life and living again will no longer bring us happiness and joy. You are beginning, or are in the midst of, a journey that is frightening, painful, and sometimes lonely. No words, written or spoken, can take away the pain you feel now. I am truly sorry that your spouse has died. As a grief counselor and educator, and as a man who has been married to my wife Sue for 18 years, I have the deepest empathy for you. In my frequent travels across North America speaking and teaching about grief, I have had the privilege to meet hundreds and hundreds of widows. They come to me with their stories of loss and ultimately healing, and I bear witness and learn from them. I pass their messages of hope and healing on to you now. They want you to know that you will survive, though if you are early in your grief, you may find this hard to believe. The death of a spouse tears through every layer of your existence. It will take time and hard work to sew up those many tears, and even then the repairs will always be a part of who you are. Healing does not mean forgetting or getting over. In fact, there is no such thing as getting over grief. That term is the cruelest of fallacies. You don't get over grief. You learn to live with it. You learn to accommodate it and to make it part of who you are. But if you mourn well over time and with the support of others, your grief will soften. No, it will never end, and it is likely that a day won't go by that you don't think about and miss your precious husband or wife. But your grief will become less sharp and all-consuming. It will take on the blurred, bittersweet qualities of memory. On most days, it will murmur gently in the background, while in the foreground, your life proceeds with meaning and purpose. Older adult widows. Mourn. Sometimes people think that just because you were married a long time and your spouse was old when he died, you shouldn't mourn his death. After all, the reasoning goes, you were lucky to have him as long as you did, and it's a fact of life that people do die when they get older. Besides, almost half of all women 65 years old and older are widows. Widowhood is so common in old age that you shouldn't complain. Poppycock. You grieve, and so you must mourn. Your precious partner of many, many years is gone. Your whole life may have been built around this person, and now that she's gone, your whole life has been torn apart. Of course you're in shock. Of course you're sad. Of course you're unsure how or if you'll survive. My own mother and father were high school sweethearts and proudly celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in July of 1999. 4 months later, my father died from malignant melanoma. My mother was and is bereaved, which literally means to be torn apart and to have special needs. As I write these words, it has been 3.5 years since I became a grieving son and my mother a widow. She has been told by many people, "Well, you had him for 50 years, be thankful." She is indeed thankful, but like many of you, she would have liked to have had him for another 50. Life is different without her best friend, her confidant, her life partner. Like you, she has been faced with the need to mourn openly and authentically. Yes, mourn. Express your grief outside yourself. Talk to your friends about the death. Talk to your children. Write about it in a journal. Paint it. Take up a cause in your spouse's honor. Create a marital memory book of photos and memorabilia. Pray. If you actively mourn your beloved spouse's death, you will not only come to live the rest of your own life more happily and more fully, you will also be actively honoring and remembering your marriage. And you will grow to learn that you can mourn and live at the same time. Your life without your spouse can also be rich and satisfying, if always a little bittersweet. This book is my invitation to you to join my mother and thousands of other widows who each day confront the need to rediscover a reason to get their feet out of bed when their lifeline has been severed. Young widows, take heart. In my grief workshops across North America, I have had the privilege to meet and get to know many young widows and widowers. Perhaps like you, they are often shocked and often angry that their lifetime partners were taken from them so very early. You have every right to be shocked and angry. You built your life on what you thought was a solid foundation, only to have that foundation crack and crumble. If you find yourself floundering, know that this is a common experience for the 500,000 Americans widowed under the age of 45. Many have young children and young careers, both of which demand lots of attention. Many struggle financially on one income. Many cannot decide if or when they should date again. There are no rules to young widowhood. You must do what feels right for you. You must forge your own path. Talking to other young widows, either informally or in the safety net of a support group, may help you find your way. And the young widows I have met would want me to tell you that somehow, some way, not only will you survive, you will learn to live and love again. A note for gay mourners. Of course, when your partner dies, your loss is as real and as devastating as that of a heterosexual spouse's. Not being married in the eyes of the law doesn't make the love or the subsequent pain any less true, but your sexual orientation may in fact disenfranchise your grief. Why? Because if society is unaccepting of your love, they will be equally unaccepting of your grief. Your loss cannot be sanctioned if your love was not sanctioned. Legal, probate, and family issues can also complicate matters for gay widows. I hope you have a circle of close friends and family who supported your relationship with your partner and who will be supportive of your need to mourn. If not, perhaps you can find an appropriate support group, either in person or online. Finally, I use the term spouse throughout the book not to disenfranchise your experience, but for ease of reference. You may be interested to know that the word spouse comes from the Old French for to pledge. If you pledged your love and your commitment to your partner, whether legally or spiritually, you too were a spouse. An invitation to mourn. Whether your spouse was young when he or she died or elderly, whether the death was a result of an illness, an accident, a homicide, or suicide, whether the death was sudden or lingering, the messages I am honored to bring you in this book are for you. There are 100 of them, and some will speak to your experience more precisely than others. If you come to an idea that doesn't seem to fit you, simply ignore it and move on. Some of the 100 ideas will teach you about the principles of grief and mourning. One of the most important ways to help yourself is to learn about the grief experience. The remainder of the 100 ideas offer practical, here-and-now, action-oriented suggestions for embracing your grief and practicing self-compassion. Each idea is followed by a brief explanation of how and why the idea might help you. You'll also notice that each of the 100 ideas offers a carpe diem, which means seize the day. My hope is that you cannot relegate this book to your shelves, but instead keep it handy on your nightstand or desk. Pick it up often. The carpe diem suggestion might help you seize the day by giving you an exercise, action, or thought to consider today, right now, right this minute. Please note that to make the language less cumbersome, I am using the term widow throughout this text to encompass both widows and widowers. When I say widow, I make no gender distinction, and I mean for my suggestions to apply equally to both men and women. You may also notice that I alternate gender pronouns, sometimes using he and sometimes she. I do this simply to avoid having to say he or she every time. While I do not believe in ranking losses in an attempt to define which kinds of losses are most painful and devastating to survivors, I have learned that widows have a particularly difficult journey ahead of them. Counselors sometimes rate the death of a spouse as the greatest stress in life. But remember, you are not alone, and your struggles are not forgotten. Each year, more than 1 million Americans become widows, joining the more than 12 million already in existence. They want you to know that you can not only learn to survive, but go on to discover renewal of meaning and purpose in your life. I am honored to pass along these resounding messages of hope and healing to you. I thank you from deep in my soul for having the courage to embrace the thoughts I've tried to express in this book. I hope we meet one day. Alan D. Wolfelt. 1. Understand the difference between grief and mourning. Grief is what we think and feel on the inside when someone we love dies. Mourning is the outward expression of our grief. Everyone grieves when someone loved dies, but if we are to heal, we must also mourn. Many of the ideas in this book are intended to help you mourn the death of your spouse, to express your grief outside of yourself. Over time and with the support of others, to mourn is to heal. Mourning the death of a spouse isn't always easy. As a culture, we tend to be uncomfortable with outward expressions of grief. We sometimes feel ashamed or weak if we show our innermost feelings. Yet the truth is, it takes strength and perseverance to mourn. If some of your friends and family are not compassionately supporting your need to mourn, seek out the company of those who will. Carpe diem. Ask yourself this: have I been mourning my spouse's death, or have I restricted myself to grieving? 2. Know that you are not alone. Your relationship with your spouse was unique. Your grief is unique too. No other widow or widower will grieve in exactly the same way. No one else will have precisely the same thoughts and feelings. Still, you are not alone. Millions of others have experienced the death of a spouse in the last 5 years. Millions more will lose a partner in the coming decade. According to the Census Bureau, at any given time, about 12% of the U.S. population has been widowed, 2% of all men, and 10% of all women. And this number does not include deaths among same-sex partners and unmarried heterosexual couples. Some people like to point out that widowhood happens to half of all married people. This is not to say that something is simple or unimportant just because it is commonplace. On the contrary, the loss of a partner is among life's most wrenching and challenging experiences. Many others before you have walked the path that you walk now. They are all around you, in your neighborhood, your workplace, your community groups, and your place of worship. And many of them would like to offer you the support that only another widow can. Open up to others, and in turn, they will open up to you. Carpe diem. Think about whom you know who has also lost a spouse or partner. Make an effort to spend some time talking with one of these people today. 3. Be compassionate with yourself. The journey through grief is a long and difficult one. It is also a journey for which there is no preparation. You have lost your life partner, perhaps your soulmate and best friend. The person who may have known you better than anyone else is now gone. To feel lonely, angry, deeply sad, and other difficult emotions is not only normal, it is necessary. Be compassionate with yourself as you encounter these painful thoughts and feelings. Don't judge yourself or try to set a particular course for healing. There is no one way to grieve the death of a spouse. There is only what you think and feel and the expressing of those thoughts and feelings. Let your journey be what it is, and let yourself, your new grieving self, be who you are. Carpe diem. If you have the energy, take a walk today through a quiet area of town, or better yet, get out of town and find a safe place in nature. Rest when you're tired and contemplate the ways in which you might take better care of yourself in the coming weeks and months. 4. Acknowledge the uniqueness of your widowhood. Your unique grief journey will be shaped by many factors, including the nature of the relationship you had with your husband or wife, the age of the spouse who died as well as your own age, how long you were married, the circumstances of the death, your family's coping and communication styles, your unique personality, your cultural background, your religious or spiritual beliefs, your gender, your support systems. Because of these and other factors, no two deaths are ever mourned in precisely the same way. If other people in your life have died, you may find that this grief feels similar or completely different. If you are a younger widow, your circumstances and needs will probably be very different than if you're an older widow, and vice versa. Financial matters, social issues, remarriage, childcare, all these things can be markedly different depending on your age. Don't have rigid expectations for your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Instead, accept and even celebrate your uniqueness. Carpe diem. Reach out to get your unique mourning needs met today. Find someone close to your age and circumstances who is also a widow, someone who can truly affirm and honor the power of your story. 5. Allow for numbness. Feelings of shock, numbness, and disbelief are nature's way of temporarily protecting us from the full reality of the death of someone loved. They help us survive our early grief. Thank God for numbness and denial. We often think, I will wake up and this will not have happened. Mourning can feel like being in a dream. The world feels distant, almost unreal, especially the lives of other people. The world turns, but you may not feel it. Time elapses, but you may not experience it. Your emotions need time to catch up with what your mind has been told. This is true even when death has followed a long illness. Even after you have moved beyond your initial feelings of shock, numbness, and disbelief, don't be surprised if they resurface. Birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries, and other special occasions often trigger these normal and necessary feelings. You may want to reach out and let others you trust know when you are experiencing waves of numbness and disbelief. Their compassionate support will help you through these difficult times. Carpe diem. If you're feeling numb, cancel any commitments that require concentration and decision-making. Allow yourself time to regroup. 6. Expect to have a multitude of feelings. Mourners don't just feel sad. They feel numb, angry, guilty, afraid, confused, and even relieved. Sometimes these feelings follow each other within a short period of time, or they may occur simultaneously. As strange as some of these emotions may seem to you, they are normal and healthy. Think of your feelings as friends to be understood, not enemies to be fought. In part, the function of your feelings is to remind you that you have special needs. Your task is to pay attention to your unique special needs. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is you are feeling without judging yourself. Talk about your feelings with someone who cares and can supportively listen. Carpe diem. Which emotion has surprised you most since your spouse's death? In your mind, single out this emotion for a moment and give it play. Embrace it, honor it, and affirm it by talking to someone else who has journeyed through grief after the death of a spouse. 7. Be aware that your grief affects your body, heart, mind, social self, and spirit. Grief is physically demanding. The body responds to the stress of the encounter, and the immune system can weaken. You may be more susceptible to illness and physical discomforts. You may also feel lethargic or highly fatigued. We call this the lethargy of grief. You may not be sleeping well. The emotional toll of grief is complex and painful. Mourners often feel many different feelings, and those feelings can shift and blur over time. Cognitive disorientation is common in grief. You may find yourself unable to think clearly, stay on task, or remember everyday things. Bereavement naturally results in social discomfort. Friends and family often withdraw from mourners, leaving us isolated and unsupported. While I hope this isn't the case for you, don't be shocked if some of your friends and family pull away. They often do this in an effort to protect their own emotions. After the death of someone loved, we often ask ourselves, why go on living? Will my life have meaning now? Where is God in this? Spiritual questions such as these are natural and necessary, but also draining. If you are feeling spiritual discomfort, you may want to talk with a clergy person or spiritual counselor. Basically, your grief may affect every aspect of your life. Nothing may feel normal right now. If this is true for you, don't be alarmed. Just trust that in time you will find peace and comfort again. Carpe diem. If you felt physically affected by your grief, see a doctor this week. Sometimes it's comforting to receive a clean bill of health. 8. Embrace your spirituality. Above all, grief is a journey of the soul. It demands you to consider why people live, why people die, and what gives life meaning. These are the most spiritual questions we have language to form. For many people, formal places of worship, churches, synagogues, mosques, offer a safe place and a ritualized process for discovering and embracing their spirituality. If you don't belong to a place of worship, perhaps now is a good time to join. Try to schedule some spiritual time into each day. For me, spending time alone in nature provides both the solitude and the beautiful evidence of God's existence that I need to nurture my soul. This exile time helps restore my soul and gives me the energy to cope with the demands of my day. Since your spouse died, you may have found yourself contemplating your own eventual death. This is very common. After all, you were partners in life. It is only natural to wonder if you'll be partners after life. We grow, we learn. The spiritual path is a lifetime unfolding process. The death of your spouse may inspire this spiritual unfolding. Make the effort to embrace your spirituality, and it will embrace you back by inspiring you with a sense of peace, hope, and healing. Carpe diem. Perhaps you have a friend who seems spiritually grounded. Talk to this person about his beliefs and spiritual experiences. Ask him how he learned to nurture his spirituality. 9. Let go of destructive myths about grief and mourning. Unknowingly, you have probably internalized many of our society's harmful myths about grief and mourning. Here are some to let go of. I need to be strong and carry on. Tears are a sign of weakness. I need to get over my grief. Death is something we don't talk about. Sometimes these myths will cause you to feel guilty about or ashamed of your true thoughts and feelings. Your grief is your grief. It's normal and necessary. Allow it to be what it is. Allow it to last as long as it lasts. Strive to be an authentic mourner, one who openly and honestly expresses what you think and feel. Carpe diem. Help demythologize grief by talking to your friends and family about grief and mourning. Let them know that their feelings about your spouse's death are normal and necessary. Share how you've been feeling. 10. Tell the story over and over again if necessary. Acknowledging a death is a painful, ongoing need that we meet in doses over time. A vital part of healing in grief is often telling the story over and over again. The story relates the circumstances surrounding the death, reviewing the relationship, describing aspects of the personality of the spouse who died, and sharing memories, good and bad. It's as if each time we tell the story, it becomes a little more real. It also becomes a more integrated part of who we are. Find people who are willing to listen to you tell your story over and over again if necessary, without judgment. Carpe diem. Tell the story to someone today in the form of a letter. Perhaps you can write and send this letter to a friend who lives far away. If you are not a letter writer, find a trusted friend to talk out the story. You will know who will be willing to listen and who won't. 11. Start each new day with a meditation or prayer. For many widows, waking up in the morning is the hardest part of their day. It's as if each time you awaken, you must confront anew the realization that your life mate has died. Starting the day off with tears and a heavy heart, day in and day out, is so draining. Yet it may be a necessary part of your grief journey, especially in the early weeks and months after the death. Later, however, you may begin to have the power to set the tone for your day by praying or...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?